What I have learned these past few years is local politics, what is happening at the grassroots community level, matters far, far more than what is happening in Washington, D.C. Okay? This is where
That's
you
right.
see, this is what impacts your everyday life, what is happening here.
Riley Gaines, a trailblazing advocate for women's rights and a well-known contributor to Turning Point USA, has reemerged onto the national stage once again, but this time tackling a close issue to her heart and close to her home. As a resident of Sumner County, Tennessee, Riley seized the opportunity to serve on her Sumner County Library Board, driven by a proposed policy aimed at removing books containing transgender and sexually explicit content. What spurred Riley into action was the repeated obstruction by library board members who prevented Christian, conservative citizens from joining the library board and then consistently voting against a policy that would eliminate harmful transgender ideologies targeting children. So I've invited Riley Gaines to join me on the Standing Firm podcast today to discuss her new role and the motivations behind her serving her community. Riley, thank you so much for making the time to be on the Standing Firm podcast. It is so glad to have you once again on the Standing Firm podcast.
Oh, please. Well, I am always so excited to talk with you. So this is just the greatest honor. So thank you, Toni.
Well, thank you for making the time. I know you're a brand new mama and a young family, and you have completely removed all the excuses from people not serving. And I just wanted to ask you, what did prompt you? What compelled you? I know you're so busy. You're a contributor on Fox and other news outlets. What compelled you to serve in your own community of Sumner County, Tennessee?
Goodness gracious, I could answer this in a few ways. I'll take you
Okay.
back to March of 2023. This is
Okay.
when I had my eyes opened to what was going on here locally. Which, from some background, born, raised Sumner County, went to school here. This is, of course, I mean, you mentioned being a new mom. Our baby girl is about 4 weeks old today. This is the school system that I would want for her to be a part of. So that first and foremost, but back to March of 2023, when I really had this match lit underneath me. Kirk Cameron, I know you know who Kirk Cameron is. I would imagine many people listening to this know who Kirk Cameron is. Uh, if you're anything like my mom, you know who he is because she had a poster of him in her childhood bedroom. He was like apparently this
That was me.
heartthrob in the 80s and
Guilty.
90s.
Guilty.
Yes. But fantastic guy. Of course, he's works in collaboration with Brave Books, which
Right.
it's like a children's book subscription service. They send books that teach wholesome stories and virtues like sanctity of life and humility and all of that to children. Basically, it's like antithetical to what Scholastic is doing. Anyways, he came to the Hendersonville
Yes.
Public Library for a children's book story hour. I was asked to be a part of this event as well as Missy Robertson. The pushback that we were met with from the Hendersonville Public Library director was something that I was just totally not prepared to see. It was not indicative, I don't believe, or an accurate representation of the community that I know and love. I won't get in necessarily to the specifics of it, but ultimately, the way that Kirk Cameron and Brave Books and myself and the community members, parents, and students who showed up to attend this story hour, the treatment that they received was so horrific that the library director ultimately lost his job. So, anyways, that's when I really had my eyes open to how this was happening right here in my small conservative town in Tennessee, a red state that most people would say is pretty well governed. I just was totally naive to this. So that opened my eyes. Flash forward to now, the past few weeks, the conversations that we have been having locally. And again, I've been more apt to listening to these conversations now that I have a daughter of my own. Whether it was the Christmas break conversation where we had school board members and commissioners who wanted to change Christmas break to winter break, whether it was the books in the library, which we saw libraries in Portland and Westmoreland containing these, I mean, confusing, honestly, these ideologies targeted toward children. Some of these books are pornographic. Let's call them what they are, containing nudity and
Yes.
expletives. Just no place, or children, of course, should not be seeing these things, and especially when it's funded by me and you, Toni, taxpayer
That's
dollars.
right.
So that all of that in conglomeration was enough for me to say, look, I'm willing to get off the sidelines. What do we need to do? It's one thing to complain about it, but what actions can we really take to make sure this doesn't happen?
Absolutely. And I can't bypass this. And the morning after that you were appointed to the library board, I was there that night. We were there way past I was there way past my bedtime, past 1:30 in the morning. And the very next morning you said, say hello to your newest Sumner County Library Board member, which we were all elated just to have someone like your voice, because we were sweating it, Riley. We knew that our county was in trouble. We knew that our children were in trouble. And when you put that tweet out, I have to reference this because there's a lot of controversy, and there has been a lot of controversy going on in Sumner County. One of our Sumner County school board members, Megan Brining, who has a lot of controversy of her own, as she is now involved in a very public lawsuit because people are claiming that she did not live at the residence that she claimed when she took the Sumner County School Board seat. But I want to know what you have to say about this, because she had some pretty interesting words for you, Riley. She said Miss Gaines has repeatedly demonstrated that she uses her platform on X as a weapon. She attacks members of our community with no regard for truth or for safety of those who targets. Now, for those of us who know Riley, just an outright um, lie, first of all, and very loose words from Megan Brining. What do you want to say to that?
Yeah, I would be interested to see if she could give me one example where I have harmed anyone in this community, or as she
Absolutely.
put out there, have had disregard for the truth. That is not the case at all. As it pertains to the comment of using my platform as a weapon, yes, absolutely, as we're called to do. I use
Hmm.
my platform to just shine light. I'm not doing anything other than basically holding up a mirror. That's what they don't
Yes.
want. They don't want you to shine light on what they're doing. Therefore, they will call it a weapon. No, really, it's not that at all. It's just putting their own words, their own actions on a bigger platform, which
Yes.
of course they can't stand, and that should tell you a lot right there. So, Megan, I read this email. I mean, it was like 3 screenshots long. Um, and all I will say, and bear in mind, this is a woman with an R by her name, right? Technically, as it pertains to what is on the ballot box, a Republican. But all I will say is, who needs Republicans when, or who needs Democrats when you have Republicans like.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And thank you for bringing that up, because, and I know you know this, but my husband Eric Stockton, along with a good Christian man with a solid reputation, Mike Ray, in Sumner County, Tennessee, they were running for library board as dads who wanted to just, I like you said, hold up the mirror, shine the truth. And obviously too, to protect these children. And my husband was like, you know, honey, make sure that you give the correct number of emails that we received. And you were one of those emails when they were running on the library board. But they received, Riley, over 380 emails in favor of Eric Stockton and Mike Ray. And here's what's happening. And again, I want to go back to what you referenced, because my eyes were opened back in 2019. Just because someone has an R after their name, they must be vetted. We are in an hour. Goodness gracious, if Charlie Kirk taught me anything, do your due diligence. Know who you're voting for. Know, because policy shapes a community. It ultimately shapes a nation. And know who you're putting in office. That's the highest form of good, because they're governing God's people. But what happened in our county, your county, is a lot of these candidates that were running had an R by their name, and they're not, Riley, they're not Republicans, and they're certainly not conservative. And thank you for your voice. This is what it took someone in the national spotlight. It took your voice, a voice of reason and common sense, stepping up to protect the children. And so let me ask you this, Riley. I know you have to go because you got that sweet little baby girl to take care of. For this is the demographics for Standing Firm are mommies. They're stay-at-home mommies. A lot of my demographics are homeschool mommies. And they'll email and say, Toni, I'm busy, but I want to get involved, but I don't know how to get involved. Riley, what would you say to that mama, especially that young mama?
Look, I will say, first and foremost, is to be involved in what your child is doing, whether it's sports, whether it is their academic setting, whatever it is. I'm so grateful. I look back on how my parents raised me, and I'm so grateful to have parents, both my mom and my dad, who were just involved, who were always supportive of whatever it was that I was doing, offering me encouragement, taking me to practice. So I can't say enough good things about my parents. I feel truthfully indebted to them. I accredit so much of the skill set that I have, the leadership that I try to conduct myself with. I credit that, of course, to my faith, but my faith instilled by my parents. So be that example for your kids. Um, and then I will say this too. What I have learned these past few years is local politics. What is happening at the grassroots community level matters far, far more than what is happening in Washington, D.C. Okay. This is where
That's
you
right.
see, this is what impacts your everyday life. What is happening here? I would imagine the government's been shut down for how many days now? I would imagine in your day to day life, it's no different now than 2 months ago, because what's happening in Washington, D.C., of course, we want conservative Christian policies and foundations passed. Of course, we do. But what impacts your everyday life is what is happening here. Be involved.
Absolutely.
Know what is
Mm,
going on. This is a mistake that I made, right? Granted, I'm only 25 years old. I would describe myself as relatively naive prior to the past, especially 3 years. Naturally, right? Being a 20-year-old girl, you're not keeping up with what's going on at the local level. Well, I wish I was back then, and I certainly am now. And you alluded to Charlie Kirk. Look, I mean, it's up to every single one of us now. Pick up that microphone, be involved, be a voice for your child, be their best advocate, their best supporter, their
right.
confidant, be that person for your kid.
That's so good. Man, your words carry so much weight, Riley, and we cannot thank you enough. I've got this verse here and I often quote it, that it's Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people mourn. And grassroots efforts, mom and daddy's getting involved. I couldn't have said it better. And thank you again just for taking the time. I know what it's like being a brand new mama, and it's very busy. But you're taking away all the excuses. Thank you so much for serving on Sumner County. For those of you who don't know that, this is my county too. This is where I raised my family, and you are beyond a blessing. Thank you so much for allowing God to use you mightily. And I know future generations are going to benefit from your service. God bless you, Riley, and thank you for being
Well,
on the show.
thank you. And tell Eric I say thank you too. Your family is just a godsend. So thank you.
I will. Riley, thank you so much. God bless you, honey.
Of
Bye bye.
course.
If you've been deeply moved by the message on standing firm and you're committed to not missing a single episode of Toni's invaluable teachings and interviews, we invite you to take a moment and join us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today.